So in this video we'll discuss about the fractionation problem, that how to solve the fractionation problem. So in this one we have one problem that is given through this diagram. Let us look closely about this diagram. Feed is given here, then we have a D1, that is a first product from the column from the bottom side, second product, third product, that is distillate, D4 distillate, D4, and this is a top product. So D5 is the overhead product and D1 to D4 is the side product. Obviously there will be a residue, that is a bottom product. So this is about the product number one. Number two, come to their volume range. So D5 is the lighter one, means the most lightest one is a D5, that is normally in a vapor phase, vapor and liquid phase mixture. So their range is 0 to 10 volume percent of the crude is D5. This is the range 10 to 15 for D3, for D4, and for D3, D1, and for D1 and D2. So this is the range given for every product, and the remaining from 51 to 100 is basically bottom residue. So because we are not going to much bother about the bottom, we are concentrated towards the distillates. So now come to the next step. These values are the number of trays. So you have given here total there are 35 trays. So on the earth tray we have recovered D1, on the 14th D2, 20th D3, 28th and 28th D3 and 28 D4, and 35 is basically the last one at the top one from where you can recover the D5. Then we can already discuss about the reflux values, means L values. These are the L values: 400, 420, 315, 308. These are the total liquid and vapors values that is going in the upside. All these values are given here. So these are the values given here. So in fact, if we just go through make the table of all these values, so D1 is given here, D2 is given here, D3, D4 and D5. All these products are, and their range values are given. Now come to the next step. Between the D1 and D2 there is 8 trays. There is basically the trays from 8 number to 13 number, because at 14 D2 is taken, and for the D2 to between the D2 to D3, if we are going to find out the separation possibility, so the tray number is started from 14 up to 19, less than 1. I have already discussed in the previous video. And for the separations between D3 and D4, between these two separation possibility, 28 to 27, and for the top one we have to include both one, 28 to 35. So these are given, L values are given and D values are given. So all the diagram, this diagram is basically converted into the tabular form. Now come to the solution steps. So what is our first solution? We have to find out the total number of trays between the fractions, reflux ratio, and finally the F value. So it's very easy because we know about the graph. All these are given. For D1 to D2 these range are given. So total number of trays here is 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There are 6. Similarly for between the separation between the D2 D3, 6 and 8 and 8. These are the basically number of trays between these separations. L and D are given. So reflux ratio can be calculated as L by D. So 308 divided by 440, that 0.7 and 1 and 3 and 4 and so on. So NT and R is given. We can find out the F value by multiplying these NT and R value. So 0.7 multiplied by 0.6. These two you have to multiply it, 4.2, 6 and so on, 32 and 24 and 32. So finally this is our first step where we have to find out the F value, because in the graph we need y-axis, that is the F value. Now come to the next, that is the important thing. You have to understand the next value, that is basically we are going to solve the separation possibility between the D1 and D2. So for this step what we need, this is a graph given, means D1 and D2, but what is the meaning of D2 here? Let us discuss about the meaning of D2 or how to go for the separation. So let us talk about the TVP curve. For example, we have a TVP curve, the equations also we have. So if we look about the D1, that is a 44 to 51. So this is about the D1, 44 to 51. and apart from D1 all the others, means all these one, D2, D3, D4 and D5, all these are taken from 0 to 44. So 0 to 44 is all the other products and 44 to 51 is D1. So this is 44 to 51 and this is 0 to 44. So you have to understand why we have calculated D2 as 0 to 44, because let us look about the possibility. What happened? All the material is going into the feed, then all the material are going through this stage, this tray number 8. Only a portion is taken out, means between 44 to 51 it is taken out. The remaining is going through it, means on this tray not only D2 is going, but D2, D3, D4, D5, all the materials are going through it. So this is taken out, means this value is taken out and this is the value that is going through the 8 stages. Means you have to find out, in fact the reality is that you have to find out the separations between D1 and the remaining value. So that is important. So the separation between D1 and D2, the real meaning is separation between D1 and remaining values, means D1 44 to 51 and the remaining is 0 to 44. So that is the important thing that you have to know. So in this case, so D1 is 44 to 55 initial value and final value, and D2 can be, means this is not the actual D2 value, this is just imaginary D2 value, means the rest value can be taken as 0 to 44. So this is all about how to go for the concept of separations between D1 and D2. And if we are going for D2 to D3, so D2 is 32 to 44 and D3 means 0 to 32. This is the remaining one, and so on. We can go for the other separation possibility. So now let us look about D1 and D2. So after understanding this concept, come to the graph. This is a graph where I have already discussed you. This F value has calculated, this Y value has been calculated here. We want to find out the X value, is a gap. The only things that is left is constant curves, that is delta T50. So now in the next slides we are going to discuss about how to calculate the delta T50% ASTM. So for that thing, D1 is given 44 to 51, D2 is remaining, that is a 0 to 44. So the next step is the mid volume percent of these two cuts. So mid volume percent of 44 to 51 is calculated as 47.5. I have already discussed you how to calculate the mid volume percent, and for 0 to 44 it is 22, obviously half of that value. Then we have to find out the TBB temperature at this mid volume percent using the equations. So using the equations, the value is given here 621 and 348, and we have to convert this TBP to ASTM by the equations. We know about that equation also, we have discussed in the previous videos. So it comes about 652 and 365. Then we have to find out the difference between these two values, that is 652 minus 365.7. It comes around 286.4 degree Fahrenheit. So difference can be calculated. This is the delta T50. This is the value of the constant curves. So in this way we can find out delta T50 for D1 and D2. That is, now we have to put these values into the graph. Now let us look about the graph. So I have just zoomed the graph. See here, y-axis, that is the F value is given in the log base. So 4 and 5. So 4.2 is here. 4.2 FT value is given here, and delta T is 286. Both values have been now calculated. So it is about 4.2. Look about 286. 250 is here, 300 is here. It means we have to go for the approximation. So just draw a simple line that is very near to 286 and go for the y-axis at intersection. It comes around plus 8 value. It's very close to the plus 8 value. So the x-axis, that is nothing but the plus 8, and that's why we call it gap value. So gap value is plus 8 value. So in this way we can find out the gap, that is x value. That is our target. So this is all about. Finally you can go for it for all the calculations. So I have calculated this one. means D1 is given here, D2 that is a rest is given here, mid value percent, then TVP temperature, then ASTM temperature, then this is about delta T, and this is about gap value. This is about gap value. So gap value has been calculated. Now your task is, I have given all these values, means D2 is given here, rest is given here, mid volume percent temperature, delta ASTM temperature, and delta T50 is given here. For D3 and D4 is given here, all these values are given here. And for the top one, that is a D4 to D5, this is a top one. So this is called the case 1. So we can go for the graph we are going to use for this one is for the case 1. So this is also given here, we have to find out. Everything is given here. You have to simply find out the gap value for all these cases. This is your basically work. You have to find out with the help of graph. I have already shared the graph in the Google form. Go through it and found it out the gap value, means you have to fill it these values and send all these values. I have given this value, this is now calculated, this is +8, only all these three are left. So go it, calculate it and find out and share it with these two values, all these values through the Google Classroom. Thank you very much.